Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News. And good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday. Thank you so much for joining me this Monday, July 6th. It's already July, and I know a lot of you are like, "Well, July 4th is over. Why are you still wearing, all of your patriotic gear?" Because we need to do this all the time. Not just sometimes, all the time, right? And so, with that, let's get into honoring God with our body. So, God, please guard our mind and our thoughts. God, help me fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So, I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect my ears and help me listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect our eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help our hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect my reproductive organs and help me to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect my feet as we walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And if you are joining us for the first time this morning on Unfiltered Vision News, that is something that we definitely try to say daily just to set our hearts and our minds right for the day. With that, let's get into our trending topics on X. And the first one is Patriot Front marches in DC on America's 250th Independence Day. And then we had the U.S. Marines. They led a patriotic flag run in Central Park, and I actually have that in my bookmarks so I can show you guys that video. And then a photo captures Black woman amid masked Patriot Front in DC Metro. So let's look into that. Some of them I don't look into, but that one's interesting. So freelance Reuters photographer Cheney Orr snapped the image of the, let's see, unidentified woman in a green sweatshirt gazing ahead socially, I'm not sure, amid the uniform group of khaki pants, navy shirts, tan hats, and white balaclavas. The white nationalist organization en route from Eastern Market to near Union Station in Capitol Hill marched peacefully with American and Confederate flags, chanting Reclaim America, while DC police monitored um, without arrest. Online reactions split sharply, some calling the scene haunting, and others noting her composed safety amid the orderly crowd, reflecting deep divides over racial tensions. And I find it fascinating how they show up interestingly, right? Because they just had all of these hearings on the Southern Poverty Law Center, basically um, setting up racism, right? Where it wasn't any. Now, this is the same group of people who were at a different event where they found out that they were paying somebody to show up. So I questioned the whole thing. I'm like, really? You're dressed in the same outfit you were dressed up in it. Was it Charleston they were dressed up similarly? Maybe they changed the color of their shirts. But I'm just saying the khaki pants give it away. The khaki pants give it what ooh, before the pay. Oh wow, that's nasty. Well, why were we doing that? That was gross. Okay, I don't know. If we were farting to make a point, if we were rubbing our butt, okay. That was gross. I'm so sorry. I did not check that out before. But that was pretty that was graphic. Okay. I thought we were just gonna see the people dressed up. But this all happened, which was, you know, in essence sad. But again, are we manufacturing racism or is racism really happening? Now, I would like to think that we've gotten to the point in our country where there's not as much racism happening, right? Good morning, so sincerely. Thanks for joining. And good morning, Spud McKenzie. Thank you so much for joining as well. So, is there racism going on in the country? Absolutely. I don't know where it's happening, but it is happening. But I find it very fascinating when it happens, especially with the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and how they make sure they're at the right places at the right times and the right locations at the right events. You know what I mean? So it's very staged. I guess that's the word I was looking for. It's very staged. And when they do that, and when there's actual real racism happening, we don't deal with the real racism and say, okay, that's not good. We need to stop doing that part. Right. But this manufactured stage stuff, it needs to stop happening as well. Well, they'll probably get to the bottom of it later, right? There'll be another investigation. It'll be like, oh yeah, remember that thing in DC that happened 3 or 4 years ago? Yeah. We'll hear about it later. It's kind of silly. Now let's get on to some of the bookmarks. So an outbreak involving a parasitic infection called Cyclocephalus Cyanoporus, sorry y'all, long words, is, quote, large and growing in Michigan, where more than 300 cases have been confirmed, and the CDC is monitoring cases in 17 other states, and there have been 145 more cases in the US and across 17 states with 20 hospitalizations. Apparently, it's a microscopic parasite. It spreads via contaminated food or water, often by fresh produce like cilantro, basil, raspberries, snow peas, and leafy greens. All the stuff that they tell you to eat to be healthy, by the way. Main symptoms: severe, watery, and sometimes explosive diarrhea. Others: loss of appetite, weight loss, stomach cramps, bloating, and gas, nausea, fatigue, low-grade fever, and body aches. Symptoms can last weeks. So we'll see what this is, what they're recommending, but it's one of those things. Make sure if you are eating, foods like this type of produce, make sure it's washed well, right? And definitely make sure you're doing your parasite cleanses, because that also helps. Or eating foods that will help your body eliminate parasites.
An outbreak involving a parasitic infection is, quote, large and growing in Michigan, where more than 300 cases have been confirmed, and the CDC is monitoring cases in 17 other states. Cyclosporiasis is caused by drinking water or food infected with the parasite. That can be fresh produce or contaminated water. Doctors say the telltale symptoms, severe diarrhea.
So there are 300 confirmed cases in Michigan. Nationwide, there are an additional 145 cases across 17 states. So this is pretty widespread. There's 20 hospitalizations. There's no deaths yet, so that's good. So what's happening here is it's being spread through contaminated water and food, things like cilantro, basils, raspberries, snow peas, leafy greens. And here's where the symptoms come in. You can have severe, watery, sometimes explosive diarrhea, loss of appetite, weight loss, stomach cramps, bloating, gas, nausea, fatigue, low-grade fever, and body aches. And it can last sometimes for weeks if it's untreated. You don't want to have explosive diarrhea for weeks, so what you want to do is definitely get some antibiotics.
Yeah. And definitely, stay in touch with your doctor and know your body, right? That's what I definitely have to say. Oops. To know your body. Let me go back into my bookmarks because I got some other into. Really? That's not what I want to do. Sorry, you guys. I'm a button pusher this Monday morning. Okay. Okay. Here we go. We had that going on. This is what I was talking about, running through New York with their flags. Okay. Not sure what's happening now. Sorry for my lack of internet. And this one was actually interesting that I saw. This is Dave Chappelle. And Dave Chappelle just admitted President Trump is right to get mad at CNN all the time after they asked him why he's proud to be an American. Let's check this out.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, Dave, you are sorry.
No good.
You're so emblematic to the idea of the power of free speech. Tell me tonight, as we look at the 250th anniversary of this country, why you are proud to be an American and how do you view our country today?
Boy, that's a loaded question. Now I see why Trump gets mad at y'all all the time. Why would you ask me that? All right. No, I got an answer for that. I don't agree with everything that our government does, but the one thing that I really consistently believe in that I love about being an American is my countrymen. If I'm overseas or around the world, anytime I see an American over there, we just give each other the Fight Club look because we live in a madness that only we really understand what it's all about. And I have faith in my countrymen, no matter how crazy all this will make it feel, that the sun will rise and that I feel like I'm part of a very incredible community. So God bless my countrymen and let us make this country absolutely great.
Cheers to that.
And
cheers to that. Dave, yeah.
Cheers. Hey, get me a beer, would you? And Mr. Trump, please leave those Haitians in Springfield alone. We love them. We love the Haitians.
All right. Dave Chappelle, cheers to you. Thanks for hanging out with us. We love you so much.
Yeah. And, I know there's going to be a lot of things said for or against, right? And my whole thing is just that it's temporary. You cannot be here forever. Sorry. Right? Oops. Really? Sorry. Noise in the background. But yeah, temporary status is temporary. You can't be here forever. Sorry. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. and that's what we're not going to be doing. Now, next, what I wanted to get to is sharing a video with you guys about Frederick Douglass.
Many Black Americans celebrated freedom on July 5th instead of the 4th of July. On July 4th, 1827, New York officially abolished slavery, freeing about 4,600 enslaved black New Yorkers and joining other northern states that had already ended slavery. But many black Americans refused to celebrate their freedom on Independence Day. While state leaders intentionally chose July 4th to symbolize liberty, many believed celebrating alongside a nation where millions of black people remained enslaved ignored the reality of American freedom. Instead, black leaders organized their own celebration for July 5th. New York's black newspaper, Freedom's Journal, announced a day of processions, speeches, and community gatherings to celebrate emancipation on their own terms. The first July 5th address was delivered by Austin Stewart in Rochester, comparing the struggle for black freedom in America to the Israelites' escape from slavery in Egypt. 25 years later, another speaker stood on that same Rochester stage. On July 5th, 1852, Frederick Douglass delivered his famous speech, "What to the Slave is the 4th of July?" Speaking just 2 years after Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Act, which required escaped enslaved people to be returned, even from free states, Douglass challenged the contradiction between America's celebration of liberty and the continued existence of slavery. The speech was organized by the Rochester Ladies Anti-Slavery Society, a group that also helped support Douglass's abolitionist newspaper, the North Star. That newspaper became one of the most influential anti-slavery publications in the United States. Its name honored the North Star, which guided many enslaved people escaping toward freedom. Today, Douglass's speech is remembered as one of the greatest speeches in American history. But it also reminds us why, for many black Americans, July 5th, not July 4th, became the true day to celebrate freedom. Have you ever heard of July 5th celebrations before today? Let me know in the comments. Follow now for clear, fast breakdowns.
Yeah, and it was interesting because, I was wearing my red, white, and blue yesterday, and I was like, "Yeah, we're celebrating July 5th as well." And people were like, "Well, what are you talking about?" I said, "You do realize, um, July 4th, 1776, people were still enslaved. July 5th actually celebrates that full circle moment where, we're actually celebrating the emancipation of slavery and true freedom in the country." And people go, "Oh, yeah," because it took 90 years from 1776 to 1866. Again, when Frederick Douglass gave that speech, he could have been swapped up at any time. He risked his freedom to even make that speech. Okay, now we're going to watch a video from Ashley B., and she expounds upon it a little bit more and gives a little more detail about July 5th.
It's 250 years old today. There's going to be a lot of cake, fireworks, flag sales, mattress commercials, politicians screaming the word freedom until it doesn't sound like a word. And I just think it's funny how a country can get this old and still be dodging one question. Because there's a question that's been sitting on this country's doorstep for most of its life. You can ask it at the cookout today and watch what happens. Whose independence are we celebrating? That's the question. Whose independence are we celebrating? On July 4th, 1776, who actually got free? And what is that day supposed to mean to everybody who didn't? Just watch how fast the subject changes. You'll get the troops, you'll get the men of their time. But what you won't get is an answer. And that's not an accident, and I can prove it. Because that exact question was asked out loud, formally, to a room full of important people, 174 years ago. In 1852, a man in Rochester, New York, got invited to give a 4th of July speech, which honestly was a bold invitation because that man had escaped slavery 14 years earlier. And thanks to the Fugitive Slave Act passed 2 years earlier, he could legally be captured anywhere in the country, including on that stage, and returned to the people who claimed to own him. They asked him to come celebrate independence in a country where more than 3 million people were still enslaved. He said, "No, thank you. I'll come on the 5th. And then he delivered what might be the greatest speech in American history. And here's what people get wrong about it. They quote the angry part, but skip the architecture, because he spends the entire first section praising the founders. Genuinely, he calls them brave men. He praises the Declaration, the principles, the courage of 1776. He lets that room full of white abolitionists relax into the story they came to hear. Then he pivots on one sentence. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. And the room can't escape, because he just spent the first 20 minutes proving that he understood their founding story better than they do. And then he asks it, what, to the American slave, is your 4th of July? And he answers his own question. A sham. A day that exposes more than any other day of the year the gap between what this country says and what this country does. His name was Frederick Douglass. That speech is 174 years old. This country is 250, which means that America has spent about 70% of its existence with this question sitting in front of it, on the record, in writing. So let's do what this country never did. Let's answer it. Whose 4th of July was it? Not the enslaved. It took a war to even start that conversation. And the 13th Amendment kept a loophole, except as punishment for a crime. That got converted into convict leasing before the ink was dry. In Alabama's mines, some years, the death rate for leased convicts passed 30%. They found a way to make slavery deadlier and kept the receipts in a ledger. Not indigenous nations, and you don't have to dig for this one, because it's in the birthday document itself. The Declaration of Independence, the actual thing we're supposed to be celebrating. It refers to Native Americans as merciless Indian savages. That's in the text. 27 grievances down. And when the killing slowed, the nation just switched over to the children. Kill the Indian, save the man. Right. That was the official philosophy of the boarding schools. Children taken by force, hair cut, languages beaten out of them. The schools kept their own graveyards. They are still finding children with grave-penetrating radar. Still. Not women. And I don't mean the vote. Under coverture, a woman legally ceased to exist. Her property, her wages, her body, absorbed into her husband. Marital rape was legal in this country until 1993. 1993. A woman couldn't get a credit card in her own name until 1974. Couldn't sit on a jury in every state until 1973. Meaning that women were tried by juries that women were barred from. What? Could be fired just for being pregnant until 1978. There are women at your cookout today that lived every bit of that. And enslaved Black women don't even fit into that paragraph because coverture assumes that you had legal existence to take. The father of gynecology built his entire field on operating on women without anesthesia, enslaved Black women without anesthesia. Wait, let's keep going because not Japanese Americans either. And here's the part they don't even teach when they teach about the camps. The government knew that they were innocent first. Before Pearl Harbor, FDR commissioned an intelligence assessment, the Munson Report, if you're familiar. And it came back saying that Japanese Americans posed no threat and showed extraordinary loyalty. Naval intelligence agreed, but he incarcerated 120,000 of them anyway. The camps weren't panic. The camps were a decision made against the government's own evidence. Then the government lied to the Supreme Court about it. And when the incarceration was challenged, officials suppressed the intelligence that destroyed their military necessity story. And the court upheld the camps on the evidence that the government knew was false. The Justice Department formally confessed to the deception. In 2011, though, they took babies. Orphans with Japanese ancestry were pulled from orphanages and foster homes and incarcerated at a children's village. The colonel in charge said that 1 drop of Japanese blood was enough. Infants under guard towers. And they went shopping abroad. The U.S. orchestrated the abduction of over 2,000 people of Japanese descent from Latin America, mostly Peru. Shipped them to camps here and traded some of them to Japan in hostage exchanges. After the war, many were deported for having entered the country illegally, brought in chains, and then called illegal. When camp survivors finally won reparations in 1988, the Japanese Latin Americans were largely excluded. But, let's keep going because not Puerto Rico either, right? Which, by the way, is a colony right now, like today, on this 250th birthday, right? Okay. More than 3 million American citizens who cannot vote for president, watching fireworks about freedom. But, they can't vote is the polite version. In 1931, an American cancer researcher in San Juan, Cornelius Rhodes, he wrote a letter, y'all, calling Puerto Ricans the dirtiest, laziest, most degenerate race of men in the sphere, and bragging that he had done his best to further the extermination by killing off 8 patients. That letter surfaced. He called it a joke, and he was never prosecuted. He went on to run chemical weapons research, for the Army, of course, and became the first director of Sloan Kettering and made the cover of Time as a hero of medicine. Oncology handed out an award in his name until 2002. In 1937, on Palm Sunday, police opened fire on a peaceful nationalist march in Ponce after the U.S.-appointed governor revoked the permit. 19 dead, over 200 wounded. Many were shot in the back. There's literal photographic evidence, and no officer was ever punished. In 1948, the gag law made it a crime. 10 years in prison to display the Puerto Rican flag. Owning your own flag was illegal for 9 years in an American territory. While America lectured the planet about freedom, then came the experiments, right? The first large-scale trials of the birth control pill ran on Puerto Rican women in 1956 at roughly 10 times modern doses, all without telling these women they were in an experiment. 3 women died. No autopsies, though. And by the late 1960s, a third of Puerto Rican women of childbearing age had been sterilized. La operación, the highest rate in the world, and many were never told it was permanent. And then the Navy used an inhabited Puerto Rican island, Vieques, for bombing practice for 60 years, until a bomb killed a civilian in 1999. And 4 years of protest finally forced them out. The cancer rate stayed, though. And that's just one colony. And every time any one of these people pointed at the gap, this country did the very thing it does best. It changed the subject. But stay with me, because the question doesn't stop at the border. The same country that wouldn't answer for its own people took the show on the road, internationally. And everywhere it went, it packed the same 2 items: the language of freedom and the Dodge. The Philippines, 1901. 3 years after America took the Philippines from Spain and called it liberation, Filipinos were still fighting for the independence that they thought liberation meant. After an ambush on the island of Samar, U.S. General Jacob Smith gave his men an order: kill everyone capable of bearing arms. And when he was asked where the line was, he said it: everyone over the age of 10. He said he wanted Samar turned into a howling wilderness. An American general ordered the killing of 10-year-olds in a war sold as a rescue. He was court-martialed, and his punishment for it? Retirement. Cambodia, between 1965 and 1973. The United States dropped roughly 2.7 million tons of bombs on Cambodia, more than Allies dropped on Japan in the whole of World War II, on a country that America was not at war with. Congress didn't know, and you definitely weren't supposed to know. The devastation helped the Khmer Rouge recruit its way to power, and the Khmer Rouge killed close to 2 million people. And after all that, the United States supported Khmer Rouge keeping Cambodia's seat at the United Nations. This country helped light the fire and then handed the arsonists the paperwork. El Salvador, 1981. A battalion trained by the United States walked into a village in over 3 days. They killed around 1,000 civilians. When forensic teams were finally able to dig years later, one building alone held the remains of roughly 140 children. Their average age was 6. American journalists reported it almost immediately. The Reagan administration called the reporting an exaggerated propaganda, and within days they certified to Congress that El Salvador is making progress on human rights, so the weapons could keep flowing. And of course the reporters were attacked as liars, but the bones said otherwise. Iraq, 1996. American-led sanctions had been strangling Iraq for years. Researchers said those sanctions had contributed to the deaths of 500,000 children. A journalist put that number directly to the U.S. Secretary of State on national television. 500,000 children. More than died in Hiroshima. Was the price worth it? And Madeleine Albright said, "We think the price was worth it." She didn't dispute the number that night. She accepted it and priced it. Years later, she said she regretted the answer. The phrasing, mind you, not the policy. Now, run it all back, right? Samar, everyone over 10. The boarding school graveyards. The children's village, the PII trials. The murdered children in El Salvador. The murdered children in Iraq. So Douglas asked whose 4th of July this is. Turns out the answer, at home and abroad, has been the same for 250 years. Not yours, and not your children's either. Douglas, by the way, never told the room to burn it all down. He said the principles were worth keeping. His whole argument was that he took the Declaration more seriously than the people that were celebrating it did. Think about what that means. The most patriotic man in Rochester that day was a fugitive. The country he described more honestly than anyone had a legal claim on his body while he spoke. But he stood there anyway. held up the founding document and said, "I read it. Did you?" That was 174 years ago. Since then, a civil war, 27 amendments, the camps, the gag law, all the murdered children, all the murdered people, 500,000 children priced on television, and a country that got very, very good at talking about anything else. So this weekend, the sky's gonna light up. 330 million people at the same party. The flags are up. The politicians will say freedom until it stops sounding like a word. 250 years old. And the question is still sitting on the doorstep, unopened, older than the flag, older than the White House, asked by the enslaved, asked by the Native Americans, asked by women, asked by immigrants, asked in Ponce, asked in El Salvador, in the whole of Africa, in Puerto Rico, in the Philippines, asked in Rochester, out loud, on the record, by a man the law still called property. It has never once been answered. Whose independence is this?
Yeah. Whose is it, right? And at this juncture, I'm going to say that it's ours if we can keep it, right? Because right now we have individuals shouting socialism. That's not independence. We're going to have independence, and we have to do better. When I first saw that video, I was like, whoa, I've got to play this on the show because she gives so much detail in a very consolidated amount of time to really make us sit back and think. Whose independence is it anyway? Is it your independence? Can you answer the question? That's what we really, really need to do. So thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. Tomorrow we will be back with Tell It All Tuesday. And thank you so much for joining me. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.